This board of peace, how would you characterise it?
Do you remember when we first started talking about the 20-point peace plan for Gaza? And Trump was actually at his most sort of energetic at that time. He managed to get the remaining hostages, the Israeli hostages, out of Gaza. He managed to have the bodies of those who died there returned to the families. And it was a real push. It was the start of something. He ended the starvation blockade of the people living in Gaza. And we actually thought that there was going to be something that emerged from this that was a real strategic plan for what happened next in the Middle East. And he came up with this 20-point peace plan, or at least he put his name to a 20-point peace plan. We think that it was sort of coherently organised by Jared Kushner and Tony Blair. It sort of seemed to have a strategy and a purpose. And yet what we're looking at today is what's so-called the Board of Peace, whose draft charter calls for it to become a more nimble and effective international peace-building body with no mention of the conflict in Gaza. So just to put this in context, he has got an admission price of $1 billion
per nation.
to join per member to join the board. I don't think that's the kind of money that any Palestinian body will be able to afford. There is no Palestinian representative on here. The people that have signed up to it, Netanyahu for one, Viktor Orban of Hungary, 2, the Belarusian President Lukashenko, 3. They're a pretty motley crew. They are not sort of euphemistically what we would call world peacemakers. You know, the fact that Putin has been invited and is thinking about it now. I think the fact that when he was in the room, the people on the stage who he was addressing, Milei of Argentina, Suharto of Indonesia, Orban again of Hungary, those are his team now. Team Trump likes these strong men of Europe, of South America, of Asia. He likes the people.
And all sort of 24 hours since he just was vicious to Europe, basically, wasn't he?
To Europe and NATO. So basically NATO wouldn't come to our rescue. I mean, I don't know what world he's talking about there. But so he's choosing his side, I think. And it feels to me a culmination of stuff that we've always kind of quietly understood about Trump, that when he said he'd sort out the war in Ukraine, he didn't mean help Ukraine, right? I mean, we've seen how he's treated Zelensky, we've seen the words he's used, we've seen how much easier he finds it to side with Putin on this. And he hasn't brought peace to the one European war that is currently raging. And he's now invited on the perpetrator, the invader, to the Board of Peace. In what world does that make any kind of sense?
Might he argue that he might say, Emily, here's how it makes sense. We have to make peace in the end with this man. He is a major player in the world. He's not yet back in the G8, the G20. He's a permanent member of the UN, obviously, but we have to find a way of bringing him back into the fold. Is there an argument for that?
I think there would be if the nations that were committed to bringing peace to Ukraine were signing up to it too. But as you've heard, as you just said,
they're not.
You know, Yvette Cooper is sort of very rationally, very quietly saying, not one for us, thanks very much. Yeah. Giorgia Meloni, who's probably the closest European leader to Trump, has constitutionally been forbidden from joining an international sort of body that is not ratified by her own parliament. So she's got a very clever role. She says, I'm going to oversee, I'm going to be an observer on this board, but I won't sign up to it. I mean, I think you're right to say that what Trump does brilliantly, as quite often, is he diagnoses a problem. So if you said now, is the UN fit for purpose? I think a lot of people around the world would say, not really. You know, if you see invasions and human rights abuses and atrocities going on in the world and all you get is a memo from the head saying we condemn this, you know, that is not going to...
And particularly when you're talking about Gaza and Israel, at least one of those parties, Israel, loathes the UN.
Loathes the UN. But I think, you know, I think it's very hard to point to sort of recent successes that the UN has had in terms of bringing about world peace or stopping.
And it's been overridden
war.
Before. Think George W. Bush, you know, that kind of thing.
He wouldn't be the first person to say that there is not a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of action from here. So I think if what he ends up doing is saying the UN's not fit for purpose, I've got my own motley crew and we're gonna take on the UN, maybe that will embolden the sort of what we used to call the sort of Western Hemisphere, or the leaders who are quite keen on peace,
to get
their act together. Yeah.
Which in a way, if you're right in that last statement you made there, that's again, it feels to me it's sort of a mirror image of what we've seen with Greenland. It certainly made people sit up and take notice, didn't it? All the invasion talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've ended up with Greenland is absolutely nothing at all for Trump. I think,
as you were.
Yeah. I mean, I think NATO has played it like you would sort of, they've patted a doddery old uncle on this one. I think they've said, oh, yeah, good idea, Golden Dome. Oh, let's see if we can manage something. Oh,
do you mind if we call it a sentry?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that, from what I understand, and obviously we're still trying to piece it together, but we were speaking to sort of NATO advisors and sort of insiders like Peter Frankopan on the news agents today, who said, I think they've given him an off-ramp. He realised that he overplayed his hand. He got slightly spooked by their response. He suddenly realised he'd made himself very unpopular. And they've all come to the table going, oh, yes, let's see what we can give you. You want somewhere for your Golden Dome. America could always do that. America always had the ability to put security measures into
Greenland wasn't stopping
into
him, was
Greenland
it? No.
via Denmark, right? And we have seen, these sort of strategic areas used like this in many places, actually, that these already exist. So I don't think he has taken sovereignty. If he wants to put a flag there, I'm sure they'll let him put a flag there. You know what I mean?
Well, I mentioned Burton Wood Air Base in Warrington earlier on in the conversation, which only closed about 20 years ago. It was there during and post-war. It was there forever. It was a little curiosity on the M62 as far as we were concerned. And that had American flags galore in it.
Do you know the story of Rockall?
No.
This tiny little island. It's literally a barren
Shipping
rock.
Forecast.
Is
it on the? I think it's mentioned in the shipping forecast.
It's 25 metres high. You can't land on it. There's nothing there. But the Queen demanded that we go and plant a flag there. I think it was 1951, 1955, sort of mid-50s.
Our own flag.
We planted a British flag on Rockall as a kind of way of saying we'd like the oil rights and the fishing rights. But you can't do anything with it. It's south of Iceland. It's sort of west of Scotland. I'm trying to draw where Rockall is on the map. Sort of, above,
I'm having a bit of that, yeah.
Above Ireland. And that is our little spot in the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
This stuff goes on. Maybe that's what inspired Donald Trump.
I know. Just flew over, saw the flag.
And this Board of Peace, I'm fascinated by what it might be able to achieve. It might surprise us, I suppose. Well, we'll wait and see. But we'll come to Gaza again in a second. But on that bigger picture of it working in cooperation with the UN, I wonder whether that's feasible in any way.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Did he say it would work in cooperation with the UN? Interesting. I mean, look, as ever, you go into this with your eyes open saying, well, let's have a look. I mean, it does seem to me that we are learning about Trump's preferences for who he deals with in the world. And it's not Europe.
And who he kicks.
And it's not Canada, and it's not Mexico, and it's not China. I mean, it's curious, like the sort of Chinese position now. Like, China is starting weirdly to feel like the grown-up in the room. When it comes to international trade, when it comes to globalisation, when it comes to climate change, they're now the ones sort of leading the way because America's sort of ceded that to them, And
they put a statement out on Greenland, didn't they, and said, not interested.
We're not interested. Stop trying to blame us for something we haven't done and we don't want to do. Now, I'm not pretending that China is a paragon of human rights virtue, not at all. But it is interesting that America seems sort of, or at least Trump seems happy to cede that place as being the sort of, the coordinator of the sort of the willing people who do want to get things done and say, oh no, I think I'll hang out with my mates from from the autocracies.
And on Gaza, just before you go, I was reading just probably a week or so ago, that school-age children had gone back to school, in inverted commas. I mean, that means started learning again, but the schools don't exist, or most of them don't. The rebuilding, the reconstruction bit of that Gaza plan, not much mention of it today in this Board of Peace stuff. I mean, and
well, Jared Kushner has.
Oh, has
so,
it? Good.
I mean, one of the interesting things would be to see if there is actually a bit of a sort of a rift between what Jared Kushner and maybe Tony Blair imagines this Board of Peace doing, because Kushner has basically said, we want to, I think he used this, he said this phrase, want catastrophic success. We want to rebuild Gaza, we want to do it fast, we want to get people homed again. His vision is is on the ground in Gaza, and I assume Blair's is too. I mean, you know, you can say what you want about sort of Blair's input to the Middle East, and a lot of people will kind of feel and sense those ironies. But he has been committed to some kind of solution in Gaza, and a two-state solution with the Middle East.
And on his involvement, I know he's not the UK government, clearly, but I guess he has a freedom to say yes to this and to get in and see what's going on and maybe report back.
Well, it's one of the most interesting questions, isn't it? Yeah. Does Blair take that freedom and say, well, you know, I'm not speaking for the UK, let's go and see, you know, be a bit of a Maloney, an observer? Or does he say, actually, why would I want to sit alongside Putin? Why would I want to sit alongside Lukashenko of Belarus? I don't think we know yet.
But he's a man who always thinks he has some contribution to the solution. Whether he's right or wrong, he always thinks he has some contribution to the solution.
And dialogue.
Yeah.
And sort of can get things done through dialogue.